I've got brown hair for the first time in a very long time. It feels super weird. I look down and I look up in the camera, look up in the mirror, look up at the screen. I'm like, dude, that's not you. That's not you. I feel like the brown also is different colored than it was before I had the blonde. Like, it's been years, but I feel like the brown is different colors. Anyways, enough about hair. Good morning, Mario, and good morning, Switch fans. It is time to talk about the latest Switch 2 big rumor. Somebody apparently held one, and they've got details to dish out. But of course, we've got to evaluate and see if this is actually legit or not. Plus, some new games coming to Switch later in November, and a few other things to touch on as well, including Horizon coming to Switch, but the dying popularity of that really cool franchise. So what's going on, everybody? It's Zach from SwitchForce. Hit that like button if you enjoy these videos. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you're ready for another week where maybe the Switch 2 is revealed, maybe it's not, maybe it is, but we do still have Zelda, and Mario Party Jamboree is right around the corner. Now, not right around the corner, but close enough, is going to be Nine Souls, which got its release date confirmed today. This is a game that is described as a mixture of Sekiro and Hollow Knight, which I think sounds like a beautiful mixture. And everything I've seen of Nine Souls looks incredible. I've held off on getting it ever since I heard it was coming to Switch back in August. Now they've given us a release date of November 26th, which is kind of a ways away, but the game looks sick. I'm absolutely picking it up. I've been having it hover over my Steam cart for a while, but I'm going to probably hold off and wait. I do think it'll be more fun to play on Switch, and because Hollow Knight Silksong is nowhere to be found, it's still in hiding and still missing and still nowhere in sight. I'm looking for another one of these kind of cool Metroidvania meets cool combat games with some good oomph challenge in there. I think this is absolutely going to be it. Now, I also want to touch a bit on some games from Tokyo Game Show. This show was pretty lackluster, I'd say. Tokyo Game Show has lost steam in recent years. It's, not completely demolished like E3, but it feels like it's getting there. It's mainly a focus on Eastern developers, which is fine, but just about the only stuff I saw from Switch was like Level 5 and Sega. People were talking about Professor Layton in the New World of Steam. That got fantastic previews. Looks like a great return to form for that franchise. Be curious to see what the price point is for that game. People got to play Dragon Quest III HD 2D Remake. That game's coming out pretty soon. People got to play Sonic X Shadows Generation. Surprise, it's Sonic Generations, but it looks a lot better. There really wasn't much fun announced, and I feel like these big shows like Jeff Keighley has swallowed the announcements. Either that or these companies make their own announcements, like, hey, at the State of Play, they make an announcement. Hey, at the Directs, they obviously make lots of announcements, but the big video game show, kind of gone. TGAs and Summer Game Fest are a lot of commercials, a lot of DLC, a lot of updates, not a lot of tentpole, big, like, mind-blowing reveals. We're missing that. I wish somebody would be able to capture what E3 once was, what Tokyo Game Show once was, like Space World for Nintendo. Could they do something where there's a show that's not just a direct, a live stream, just like a video that you tab over to on YouTube, but something that's like a big, real, people talking live in a theater show. Maybe it'll never happen again, but I do kind of long for those days. And now Tokyo Game Show comes and goes, Gamescom comes and goes, and it's like, was there really any big announcements? No. When I was a kid, that would be unheard of. If you didn't have a big poppin' podcast going through the chunky list of everything revealed, then I don't know. That never happened. Every freaking show had a huge lineup of reveals, and a lot of them were really exciting. We just don't seem to get many big, exciting reveals. I thought Lego Horizon Adventures on Switch was an exciting reveal, and now we know from last week's State of Play that the game is confirmed for November 14th, day and date on PlayStation and Nintendo Switch. But I feel like this game is going to completely underperform and fly under the radar because the Horizon franchise as a whole, like, for some reason, it's just not where it seems like it should be. Horizon has had two very successful games, and now they're remastering the first game for PlayStation, and people couldn't be less excited. It was such a low-energy announcement to get Horizon Zero Dawn back on PS5, and then they show off Horizon Lego Adventures, and nobody seems to care. Horizon's like a really big franchise that people joke and say is a manufactured franchise, like a plant. Like, Sony is paying to make this popular. It's not actually popular, but the games are really good. I hope that it's able to make some sort of dent in the Switch sales this holiday season. I know that there's Mario and Luigi Brothership in November, and obviously Zelda people will still be getting throughout the holiday season, but it's a fun get for Switch and Nintendo to have a Horizon game on the platform. I hope that it's able to, like, at least be given a fair shake. If it's a good Lego game, if it's a good fun game, like, it shouldn't matter that it's Horizon. And it's also kind of a bummer because Horizon is one of the only brand new franchises invented last gen, and one of the only ones that is kind of stuck, and yet it seems like it's unsticking very quickly, and it's fallen out of favor. Like, robot dinos and a post-apocalyptic futuristic universe is pretty cool in my opinion. I like those games a lot. I don't know if it's the main character, I don't know if it's the world itself, I don't know if it's how much they've been pushed, but something's just off, and that has led to, I think, a lack of popularity and a lack of enthusiasm for what should be a really cool crossover title. Let me know if you're planning to pick it up or interested in that November 14th release date in the comments down below. And now let's talk about wheels. And I'm not talking about Sonic, and I'm not talking about Kirby when he does get the wheel power-up, although I think that's my favorite Kirby power-up of all. I'm talking about scroll wheels. Now let me wind you back before we investigate this new Switch 2 rumor, because earlier on, Sakurai made a video about scroll wheels on the GameCube controller, and how this was something that he really wanted because he thought it would be great for menu shifting and character select, to quickly go through, through all of your wonderful options, and that it was a convenient, cool, clever way to innovate and bring a gimmick to a Nintendo controller, and they ended up not doing it. Now, this sort of scroll wheel has popped up from time to time about Switch 2. I've seen this rumor throughout the months and years, Switch Pro, I believe, Switch 2, like that there's a scroll wheel type device on the controller. So very interesting that this nameless source pops up and says, guess what, guys and girls? I've held a Switch 2. Huh. Have you now? Have you? They say they can't provide any exact information because, of course, that would give away who they are and they'd get in big trouble. But supposedly they've held a Switch 2 that was a dummy model. Now, they're saying that this was a model that didn't have any electronics in it, but it felt like it was a ready-for-retail product. It didn't look 3D printed, it wasn't sloppy, it wasn't a picture. They held a hardware-less, inside empty, hollowed-out Switch 2. Now, pause. Why would Nintendo have hollowed-out bodies? Shells, I understand, right? Like that image we saw of like the shell of the Switch 2, the shells of the Joy-Con that people say is probably legit, like that prototype shell, like that makes sense. But an assembled Switch 2 with nothing on the inside, why? Why? What's the point of doing this? What purpose does it serve? For people to hold? For accessory manufacturers to measure and model? I don't know that Nintendo would just hand those out. It seems very odd that they would have something like this. The dude also says that there's no USB ports, no vents or holes whatsoever. So now they are putting together a Switch 2 that's hollowed out but also doesn't have any of the ports. Did this guy dream this? I don't know, but let's get to the good stuff. The big thing he says is that the shoulder buttons could spin. I sat there playing with it in my hands and staring at it for like 2 or 3 straight minutes before moving on. They were like mouse wheels, and you could run your finger along it, but it still clicks like a button. So basically, it's replacing on the Joy-Con the L button, not the ZL, not the trigger, but the shoulder button, and it's spinning this way. They said the best example analogy they can give is like a conveyor belt, like a grocery store conveyor belt, like it spins like that. So you can move it along like this, horizontally. They said it's still a rectangular button in order to use this for interesting menu scrolling, character selects, maybe some gameplay instances, maybe some gimmicky like 1-2 switch type title, but it also clicks and it felt very satisfying to hold. Now, Nintendo could absolutely innovate with the Joy-Con 2.0, and besides making them bigger and drift-free and magnetic, they could add some interesting button newfangled designs. What is the real purpose of this scroll wheel? If it's just for menus, I mean, that's nifty, but would Nintendo really add that whole mechanism just for menu selections? A lot of times Nintendo games don't even have very big menus. Sometimes their menus are so bare bones and lackluster, we make videos about it. I don't know that they would need a scroll wheel for that. Is there another world where a scroll wheel has some better, more interesting implementation? Maybe. But as we've talked about with other gimmicks on the Switch 2, I think the best bet is to stay gimmick-free so that third parties are able to just port over games and not worry about like, oh god, we gotta make a Switch version, and Nintendo's not pressing them like, you gotta include the scroll wheel. I feel like that's weird and excessive and doesn't really provide that much of a perk. Like in my opinion, the 3D gimmick provides more of a difference that developers would be willing to try out. Even the gamepad on the Wii U is like, okay, you could do cool things. A scroll wheel Like maybe you say that's the reason they do include it, because it doesn't require a gameplay change. It's just a nifty addition that Nintendo threw in there. I could honestly see a scroll wheel being on there. I don't think it would make a huge difference. I think it could just be a minor, like nifty noodle cadoodle thing they did with the Joy-Con to make it feel like a separate system and make people interested in buying their new Joy-Con. But I'm going to say that I don't think that this user adjacent adjunct is telling the truth. And it's more about the description and detail they give about the Switch 2 itself versus the scroll wheel. I think the scroll wheel could be there. I would not bank on it. I would not put money on it. But the fact that they're holding this retail-ready model that doesn't have any innards and that doesn't have any ports and that doesn't have any vents seems pretty crazy. They're saying, it's similar in size and shape to what we saw from the prototype pictures and the prototype shell. I totally believe that. We all know the Switch 2 is going to be a bigger, better Switch. But this just seems like somebody trying to gain clout and seem cool in a universe, in a world where everybody is so desperate for Switch 2. Everybody is so desperate for it to be announced. And I'm so darn desperate and silly, I still think this thing could be revealed next week. Next week does feel like a perfect time, right around that October 10th time frame. It could be revealed, but we cannot wait each and every day for Nintendo to drop this. If they do, they do. If there was a reason behind their September shift out where they moved that partner showcase in Indie World to August, then there is. If Nintendo decides they want to talk about it and show off the scrolly clicky wheels, sounds like a fun idea to me, but I cannot put too much weight into this because it'll drive me crazy. And I know some of you are probably getting driven crazy of like, where is the Switch 2? There still is so much buzz around it. I still fully believe it's revealed this year. I think it's got to be soon, but I guess we'll just wait and see. Let me know if you'd like scroll wheel buttons on your Switch 2. Do you buy into this? I can't think of a reason why Nintendo would make a model without innards, what purpose that would serve. They're not sending these off to be measured by accessories manufacturers. They would just send them the dimensions, not risking this getting out there. I don't think it's legit, but the Switch 2 could have some gimmick that isn't gameplay effective, but is much more just like aesthetically effective, or like a little newfangled thing for Nintendo owners to get hyped and excited about. Just show us the system. That's all I have to say. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, stay happy, stay positive out there. Love you lots. SwitchForce out.